Good morning, welcome to Ag Talking Raw, where I talk raw about agriculture and other things that are on my mind. Yes, I still am alive and well, doing my thing here. I haven't put my hat on, so you get to see the chrome dome. I just shaved my head. Yeah, I'm not that bald, actually, but I'm bald, but I ain't that bald. There, how's that look? Do I look like I've completed the ensemble? All right, so, yeah, good morning. Well, I think I screwed up here. I better just cut that off. Am I getting too old for this? Looking like a white man? If you look back 10 years ago, this was red. A lot of life has been lived between then and now. But anyway, yeah, someone was picking on me about my soybeans. Like, oh, you're not showing the corn and the knee-high grass and the soybeans you planted through knee-high grass. Well, actually, some of it was waist-high. I do have some problems in the corn with the knee-high or waist-high grass that I planted through, and I'll tell you, stupid on my part, some of it. What happened and what has happened to that corn, and it's there. The problem is it is so dry right now. It is so dry right now. It went from cold and wet to hot and dry, and that is not really good for steady growth. But what it has done for the corn, it has caused it to stop reaching for the sun because, well, let me back up a little bit. Cold and wet kept my herbicide from working. My Roundup or glyphosate, it kept it from working. Most of you probably don't even know, but once the temperature gets below 55 degrees with glyphosate, it stops working. It doesn't translocate. The plant stops growing. 55 degrees at night. We were down into the low 40s for weeks at night. I mean, it was bloody cold. You put on a coat to get up, and then by afternoon it would be 65, 70 degrees. And yeah, and it just inhibited the glyphosate from working. Atrazine, Dual, and Callisto, or Bicep Magnum and Callisto, which was Lumax, used that. You know, got really literally no effect from the atrazine on the grasses that were out there. The atrazine should have killed fescue, but it didn't. So I ended up respraying every freaking acre that I had with glyphosate, and it dried up. Everything's dried up. So now that the grass is completely dead, the corn had gotten real leggy. I had grown for light, and in a normal growing year, like an inch of rain every week and a half, which would be fine for us here, that corn would have, the grass would have died. The corn would have reached over the canopy, stopped growing, and put down roots and continued to grow. But what has happened is because it was so cold and wet and the grass didn't die, I do have a poor emergence in some of these areas. Not like the end of the earth emergence, but poor emergence. And the corn is there, but it's now putting down roots, trying to find water, and it isn't growing. It's not getting tall at all. It is just severely stunted in its growth. Not all of it. I mean, I'm going to take my camera out and I'm going to show you. Actually, I'm going to take my camera out this morning, like probably as soon as I'm done with this. And I'm going to film some of these crops that were planted no-till. Well, everything that I planted was no-till, with the exception of the video that I did, the last video that I did where I showed my soybeans were curling over, trying to conserve moisture. Those beans, you know, they're hurt. They're hurt bad. They are waist high now. They're still growing, but in the areas where the wet areas that have dried out now and turned to pretty much concrete, those beans they're wilted pretty bad. We did get a half an inch of rain in 2 separate rain systems or showers that went through on that ground. It has done literally nothing. The other farms that are a little bit farther north, they actually ended up with about an inch of rain, not quite an inch of rain, in two different storms. Um, so, I'm okay there. There's a farm south of me which was planted through warm season grass, which is traditionally a motherfucker to kill, and it never did die correctly. Two sprayings, three burned down, two doses or two trips over it with a herbicide, and that stuff, because it's not actively growing, because it dried out. That grass is like, and wow. I mean, that farm there, it's not a total loss. It's just not a healthy looking, at all healthy looking. And if you're in Delaware Township, you know exactly which farm I'm talking about, because I'm sure everybody that drives by that farm is like, wow, that guy fucked up bad. Um, yeah, but you know what? We didn't have the normal year. I mean, normally we hit May and it warms up. It doesn't get below 50 degrees at night. But we were 39, I think, 37 was one night. I mean, it was bloody cold in May. Stunted everything. It just really put a hurting on it. So I haven't really shown uh, the corn and the soybeans that have been planted through that knee-high hay for two reasons. Reason one is it is doing exceptionally well, where I had good grass control, and on the corn side, and the soybeans, they're not struggling at all for moisture. So there's no issues there. So I just don't find myself out in that field with my camera, because there's really nothing to show you. It's just a normal growing soybean field. But if y'all want, I will do that today, and I'll show you what knee-high corn can, or knee-high grass can do if you get the grass under control. Corn varieties are very important as well. 97-day FS corn does not no-till well at all. It just doesn't. You get into decalb. Anything decalb that I planted is, or decalb, or whatever. Decalb is what I always call it, but decob is what some people, I don't know, decalb. That seems to have taken on the grass and has come through and is doing okay, doing actually pretty good. We just need rain. Now we went from cold and wet to hot and dry. What we need is hot and wet. We need some rain. We really do need some rain. This corn it's all above, it's about pretty much all of its waist high. In the latest planted corn, it's waist high, and it's just putting down brace roots, which kind of shocked me for now, because brace roots generally don't come out until about tassel, as you guys say. Tassel is what I say, but tasseling. So these brace roots are coming out because it's really looking for moisture. It is not putting on height, it is putting down roots, which is good, because where I did have the first planted corn, and I will take you there today, you'll be amazed. Actually, I think I did do a video where I was showing the cornfields. Well, now it's over my head, because we got that pretty much not quite an inch of rain on it, and it just uncurled it and sent it to the moon. The problem now is that we're in the mid 90-degree days with very little moisture. We have a canopy of corn, or the corn is canopied, the beans are pretty well canopied. I do have two farms that were planted later, and soybeans that did not canopy, doing well, having a little struggle with deer population. I think I've got them chased off of there, which is good. No lead involved. It's a product that I use, and it worked. The minute we got that inch of rain, or half inch of rain, poof, that was it. That stuff hit the soil and did its job. Those deer just can't stand it, so they leave. And those beans seem like they're coming back. I am going to send my father back out for some more of that foliar feed, and I have to put in my second burn down on, or second glyphosate application on that. I have horse nettle. Horse nettle dies very easily with glyphosate, but I do have to do that. So I want to put the foliar feed on. I got foliar feed potassium, just came in yesterday, and that's enough to do the 200 acres or 150 acres. It's about 150 acres that I have to do. and I'll hit that with those two products. But I don't want to do that until we actually have another, at least a half an inch of rain, because I don't want to push those plants too far, too hard, and then they have a suicide. They grow to kill themselves. So that's it. So that's pretty much the deal here. The corn looks horrific in the middle of the day. Right now, if I go out there, it's going to look good. It's going to be all uncurled. It's not too hot. The sun isn't up over its head, beating the ever-loving shit out of it. So we've got that issue. But, it is what it is, though. I mean, this is farming. I'm a little nervous about if it continues, this dry spell continues. I know just to our south and a little bit to our north, they have gotten some decent rain. To our east, they got rain. We are in Satan's asshole right now. We are in the hottest place on the planet. Well, not the hottest place on the planet, but the hottest place on the East Coast with zero rain. Literally zero rain. You take a half an inch of rain and then it gets to 90 degrees. That stuff is evaporating out of the soil on anything that isn't covered or canopied. Where I did run the disc over lightly to level out where I ran with the ripper on this farm here at home. That is probably the worst that I have for dry spots, droughty area, where it's canopied or where I ran through the hay and it looks good. I'll show you that. There is some curling out there, but there's moisture in the ground, which means that corn is it's curling to conserve moisture, but at night it unfurls and, it's still taking up nutrients. And when we do finally, and I mean finally, get that soaker of a rainstorm, we'll probably have something like 5 or 6 foot stalks on a lot of this. And hopefully we get that, if it doesn't die, and that's the concern I have now. There's going to be areas of these fields that die. But my concern now is that if it doesn't die and we do finally get a coastal storm or something comes up, a real system that gives us the moisture that we need that can last a couple of weeks and really set the pods and fill the pods and fill those ears. And, pollination is the scariest thing for me, because you can have 6, 7, 8, 10, 14 foot tall corn stalks and we have zero moisture in the atmosphere and on the, in the forecast, and you miss your pollination. You're pretty well fucked, because there's not going to be anything in the ear. And I've seen that in the past. You'll peel the husk back and there's 5 kernels on an ear, and then you just wonder, what am I going to do with this material? It's literally just fodder for microbial activity. That's it. That's the only thing you're going to do. If we do get into a situation like that, I have no crop insurance, which is okay by me. I'm okay there. It'll suck. It'll really suck, because it'll really suck if we don't get anything. But I will plant wheat, and that's it. I'll just plant 1,000 acres of wheat and we'll go from there. How hard is it to combine 1,000 acres of wheat in the fall, and then I'll kill another 600-800 acres of hay and put corn or beans into that. I'll probably just put corn into it for the next year, or another 500 or 600 acres of corn. So I go from a failed corn crop into a wheat crop, and then back into a corn crop, and possibly in a wheat crop like that, I can double crop beans behind it if I do what I have intentions of doing on a vast majority of it. 2 combines running and just go, drill behind us, cut it damp, strip the tops off, just cut the heads off damp, because the head will dry and the wheat can be a little puffy, and just run it through the dryer and get it off and get those beans in through the wheat stubble. And life will be good. I'll run a vertical tillage machine over the wheat anyway, just in a straight cut, not work the ground, just slice the ground, open it up for air, and allow that microbes to get up onto that stubble and start to break it down to feed the soybeans that I put in behind it. And that's my plan. That's my fail-safe plan. Uh, I don't go to the government. I don't trust our government agencies. They don't have our best interest at heart, even when they give us money or gave us money in the past. And I haven't been in those offices in 12, 14 years. I have no desire to go in there to kiss somebody's ass and get a few pennies back. It just isn't worth it. If there is a disaster relief, I will skip out on it. It just, to me, it's farming isn't about the safety net of the government, because the government really doesn't have your best interest at heart. What they want to do, and if you don't believe me, and now we're going to get a little political here. There is a web application or a application app that you can download. It's called Iris, IRIS. Okay, Iris. And what Iris does is it follows our congressmen and senators and possibly even the president's kids, I'm not 100% sure on that, on their investments. It follows those people because they know what bills they are about to put forth to be signed into law and what companies it will affect negatively and positively, and they invest in that. So when you fill out your USDA report and it says, under penalty of law, give me a break. They're not going to send the FBI out to strong arm you into telling them how many acres of corn, soybeans, and hay you planted. What they want to do is get that information so they can just send all their statistics over to the Chicago Board of Trade. And if you have RFD TV, which I do not, but my mom and dad do, and if you really want to get aggravated, go flick on the boob tube and watch RFD TV, and that guy that dresses up like a cow, he weighs like 450 pounds. When I first saw him, I thought, that guy's an asshole. But now that I've watched him a few times, and I actually think he's pretty spot on. He was a CBOT investor or whatever, a tradesman or whatever you want to call him, not a trader on the floor. He did that stuff, if I've gotten it right. I mean, I don't watch the show very often, but if you watch him, in the beginning of his career on RFD TV, he was a little bit of an arrogant jerk. And then you see a transformation in him, like, wait a minute, these crop reports are not reflecting what is being traded on the Chicago Board of Trade. We have a disaster here, a disaster there, flooding here, derecho there, hail up north, hail out west, hail down south. We got a drought here, a drought there, a drought everywhere. And these people come out with a USDA report that says everything's fine. Well, it's not fine. It's not fine, but they're trading that way. So you'll see corn creep up 30 cents or jump 30 cents. You'll see beans jump 45, 50 cents, in a day. And then they quit trading or whatever. And then, they'll do that for 2-3 days and then bam, what happened? They sell off, and then the farmer doesn't get $7.90 for a bushel of corn and $16.80 for soybeans. He's getting $5.25 a bushel, and then they panic sell. And then those reports go into the CBOT, and they're like, oh, well, there's plenty of grain on the market, because farmers are panic selling because they're afraid that it's going to go down to $1.75. And mark my words, that can happen. That can happen. It has happened. I remember in 2003, we were getting like almost $4 a bushel, 4.25, something like that. I'm pretty sure it was 2001, 2003, something like that. 2005, I'm in the middle of a divorce. I was selling corn for $1.75 a bushel. $1.75. Yeah, so we lost lots of money. Input costs weren't so dramatic like they are today. But if you take corn that your break even is like 160 bushels to the acre, and you just watched hail strip it down, and maybe you'll get 150 bushels, and then your break even number was like $5.25, like mine was back in February when I penciled this in, because that's what I expected, due to what I have seen on corn, that is. Soybeans, I had penciled in at $10.50. So, you use those numbers, and then all of a sudden, your yield is severely damaged, your average yield, which you absolutely have to cover your input costs, your computer costs, your planting costs, your fertilizer costs, your seed costs, your diesel fuel costs, your drying cost if you have one, your combine costs, all these costs, everything that's put together. And now you're looking at, oh shit, the derecho went through and it wiped out of my 1,000 acres. It took 250 and put them right to the ground. There's no way in hell I'm ever going to get this up. No nothing is going to help me here. Your average just went all to hell. And what are you going to get? You're going to get an insurance policy, possibly, if you have it. Or you're just going to, you're like me and you say, "Fop yours," and, to the government, because you're working on your skills. Now, if your skill set isn't very good, everything that I have done to my crops, with the exception of some of the corn that I planted, and I mean, there's about 75 acres of corn that I planted that I am not at all thrilled with. At all thrilled with. I think that it's going to be, if we get the weather, I would still get over 120 bushels to the acre or so, maybe 140 bushels, if we get the weather. But the weather is severely disappointing right now. So, but whatever it is. I still have the hay, and I can do, I can survive without that stupid insurance policy. The funny thing is, with these insurance policies, you go out and you get your crop insurance, and if you get 80%, or the buy-up, or whatever the hell, not buy-up, but 80%, or whatever the hell it is. I can't even remember. I haven't had crop insurance in so long, I don't even remember how it works. And they probably changed it 6 ways from Sunday since then. Anyway, so you have a good crop, and then they're like, oh, okay, so you had 1,100 acres. We need our $40,000 now. It's like, well, wait a minute. So $40,000 on a good crop. And then even when you have a bad crop, and they're like, oh, okay, well, we're going to pay you 80% of the crop, 80% of your average. So if you average 40 bushels in beans, you're only going to get, 80% of that. If you average 150 bushels on your corn, you're only going to get 80% of that. And then they're going to still take that $40,000 off of the premium to pay for the premium, and then that's what you're left with. So if you were going to get, say, $200,000 by the time you're done, $200,000 to put in this crop, it barely covers anything that you've got. You will not live. And they made their money. No matter what, they're going to make their money. Then that's it. They've made it, man. They're like, okay, so we got to pay this out this year. There's 6 years that he's going to be paying. He's going to be paying $40,000 to us for 6 years. And then, maybe on the 7th year, he's going to have a problem, but he's not going to have a problem on all of it. And we still get our $40,000 and, the remainder, big deal. So 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So he's still going to get $160,000 out of us. But for the 6 years, 4 times 6 is 30. There to go. There's your money. Who won? Who won? Who won? They did. You're not getting out of it what you think you are. And there's a lot of lenders out there that won't loan you money for your row crops without having that crop insurance. And fortunately, I didn't borrow money on my row crops from that particular, for my row crops. I didn't borrow money for those row crops. I didn't. I borrowed it on, well, how much did I borrow? I don't remember. It wasn't much, but whatever. It wasn't on row crops. It was on something else. Something else, which is HAY. Hey! There you go. So I didn't have to borrow it on the row crops. I didn't have to have that insurance because I don't go to the Farm Service Agency. They don't know what the fuck I planted. I told them after it was done, and yeah, whatever. They'll get paid. They'll get paid. And even so, it isn't that big of a deal. But anyways, I guess I'm going to go get my camera and I'm going to go do a walkthrough in some of these fields, and y'all can see what I'm talking about, the differences between the beans that are planted through that grass versus the beans that weren't, and the corn that was planted. But all of the corn was planted no-till. There was none, with the exception of, no, just that one. There was nothing. I'll show you anyway. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a good day, and I hope you're doing better in your fields than what I am. We're a little disappointed, but you know what? That's life. And as my wife says, it's all in God's hands, Wesley.